Welcome to today's episode. Today, we have an amazing guest, Vivek Mital, CEO and founder of VegaMX. So, Vivek, thank you so much for hopping on today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, anyone who's just tuning in for the first time, we are Stravix, a company that helps financial services and other industries scale efficiently. So, if you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around and hear some insights. And if you're also interested in our free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs down below. So, Vivek, why don't we just hop right into it and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, certainly. So I was doing my PhD in physics a million years ago and did, another master's in engineering and financial mathematics. Worked on Wall Street for about 16, 17 years, front office, middle office, back office. We didn't call it big data back then. That's what it was, massive, large data infrastructure, data management, computing, derivatives, pricing, risk management. And and around 2014, I got interested in the world of space technology and applications. As a child, I was always interested in aerospace, and I thought, well, why not? I mean, just take a leap into it. And the new space revolution was fully on, and people launching satellites and
Mhm.
building up applications and rockets and those are the early years, 2011, 12, and so I was in India helping my buddy get to the moon, involved in Google X Prize, raise money, and I came back to US after almost a year in India and decided to launch this company, whose original purpose was to launch a certain form of exotic satellites, which we call the radar satellites, which can see through the clouds at night and observe the Earth, and then flesh out the applications. So here we are in the company now. The mission statement is food, energy, and national security enabled through space, air, and ground sensing, and reinforced through AI and the process of physics-based models. So, but space technology and satellites are very intrinsic to this entire.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through that. So, what problems are your customers bringing to you most often? Agriculture risk, wildlife, anything else, something else?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the mission statements, if you drill down in food security, there's a slew of actors such as growers, farmers, input companies, fertilizer companies, water companies. Money is needed for everything. So physical economy linked with financial economy, the two, how they interact and interplay. We have a legitimate use case for all of them. So we bring this systems thinking, ability to solve or at least address grand challenge problems. So as opposed to building a widget or a siloed solution, try to solve problems across the silos in a integrated fashion, if you will. So for agriculture to exemplify, it would be, say, crop production, crop monitoring, environmental assessment, both monitoring, and at the same time, linking that to the capital markets and financial services, which is insurance. It could be credit. It could also be trading. So how does satellite data and AI enable multiple actors in a unified, integrated way is one approach of addressing these hard market-driven problems. And
Yeah.
the same thing unfolds in the energy sector and so on and so forth.
Okay. So, what would you say the biggest misconception is people have about your work or AI when they first talk to you?
Well, misconceptions also change with a function of time and maturity of the market. So back in the days, I mean, even 5 years back, mortals attempting to launch satellites on their own was considered like a rather difficult, if not an outright impossible feat. More like 7 to 8 years, because my original plan was to launch radar satellites, and I came up with a figure of $70 million back then, and I couldn't raise it. And but things change now. Things have dramatically changed. So there's a very active space economy on the upstream, which is rockets and satellites and infrastructure, taking astronauts, space stations, which is just matured in front of us. I mean, because until recently, these are all very government dominated. So on the VC funding side, that market has certainly opened up. So that's radical transformation, and which is good for everyone. On the midstream is ground stations. So that's showing a lot of life. And downstream, I think not just the regular investors, I mean, the very specialized space investors or AI investors, but a general class of investors, mainstream investors, have all recognized the importance of space technology and AI to impact practically every segment of human endeavor. So there's a huge shift in the mindset in terms of feasibility of the technology, as well as opening the purse strings for building those solutions. So that's, in my view, been a dramatic shift in the mindset. And since we are a player in this domain, that's obviously benefited us, But again, I mean, the downside is, when we started, there were like maybe 3 or 4 players in agriculture in India, and even US, there were few and far in between. But now, there's like 2,000 agriculture companies.
So, where do you see we're kind of on the topic of AI. In the next 8 to 12 months, how do you see it in the marketplace, in your industry, and specifically your company?
Yeah, I mean, our entire, effort and game, product development is AI oriented enabled. I mean, bear in mind, I have a pretty geeky background and I'm from the sort of older era, where, for example, if the Nobel Prize that was awarded this year for physics was AI because the roots of AI are in the world of physics. So I've got some old fashioned thinking. The point being massive data processing, analysis, classification, segmentation, more advanced AI models, and more data processing, data management, and computing is absolutely vital and intrinsic to our effort. And it's just getting, it's just advancing at a blindingly fast pace. So the answer is, we have to ride the wave or we'll get crushed. And the market is also is maturing, it's discerning, but we feel confident that we have the right capabilities, tool sets, and most importantly, the data. So
Good.
AI in particular is a set of tools and methodologies that consume data. Per se, it may not know the internal process, although there is some explainable AI and physics AI models. But conventionally, it's fundamentally a data-driven process. So by virtue of us owning massive capacities in these satellites and constellations, we have a distinct advantage in being able to provide that fuel for these AI models. That plays to our advantage in a very significant way. And these satellites are getting operational, and we'll have several constellations operational and fully deployed in space over the next 24 months. And few of the early satellites have already been launched.
Yeah.
So that's a massive advantage that'll continue to power the AI revolution, if you will.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. So, kind of just wrapping up today, if you have any, final advice that you'd like to give anyone or kind of anyone breaking into the industry, what would you say?
Yeah, so we operate at the intersection of three industries. One is space industry, space technology, satellites, where there's AI at every level, upstream, midstream, whether it's agriculture, whether it's energy, utility, solar, or conventional, including nuclear. And then the third is, the end user, which could be a farmer or the industry, the nuclear solar industry, or the financial services. So there are three players: the space industry, the physical economy, and the financial economy. So I would say to anyone it doesn't matter what stage, age, if you're curious about these issues, then just start networking, get involved. Regardless if you have a technical background or non-technical background, there are plenty of opportunities. And these are segments of considerable growth and potential in the coming years, if not decades. I mean, the space economy is just exploding. It's going to be multi-trillion-dollar. And for those who are like at the deep end of mathematics and computer science and AI, this is an extremely rich area, which both technically, scientifically, and also in terms of data that has access to. So it's a heaven for such people. It should be a natural fit for them, and I would encourage them to look at it very seriously.
Good. Well, Vivek, thank you so much for all your insights. It was a pleasure having you on today.
Likewise, thanks for having me.